Hi, I'm Dr. Bruce Santos, and this is my more relaxed facet in life. Today we want to talk about some basic concepts about nutrition that we sometimes get not necessarily wrong, but not with the precision that we should have. And they're very important, they're central to our life, and we completely ignore them. The first one of those that I would like to attack is calories. So basically, your body is just very similar to a car that you need fuel and energy to work, and you have to burn that energy in order to do work. So calories are simply a measure of how much energy you can derive from something. So if something has 9 calories, that means you have 9 calories worth of fuel in it. And basically, whatever you eat, food are comprised of simply 3 things. You either have protein, or you have fat, or you have carbohydrates. So basically, fat is a very good storage of energy. Protein is not such a good storage of energy, but a storage of building blocks. And carbohydrate is a very good storage of energy that gives you quick energy. So that's why before you go to the gym, you want to take some carbohydrates so you have more energy to do whatever you're going to do there. And if you want to pack a meal that's calorie dense, you simply add fat to it. So whenever we're going to do weight management, whether it be before surgery, after surgery, for our daily life, it's very important to have these concepts very clearly in our heads. So your body will burn an amount of calorie based basically on your height, your age, and your gender. And it will be also affected by the amount of activity you perform throughout the day. So if you're very active, you're burning a bit more calories. If you're not so active, you're burning a bit less. But it's not as important as your height and your age in terms of how many calories you're going to burn. So we're not so much able to regulate the amount of calories we burn. We're more in control of the amount of calories we take. So whatever measure we do in terms of weight management should be aimed more to what we eat and what we don't eat, rather than how many calories we're burning if we want it to be effective. Also, your body has a limited amount of fat it can burn in order to obtain energy. And basically, if you reduce your calorie intake too severely, you're not burning all that in fat, and your body is going to start burning muscle as well. So it's not ideal to have very restrictive diets in terms of calories, when in general it's not a very good idea to do dieting. What we should be doing is changing the way we eat and our relationship with food. So if we aim to lose a certain amount of fat, for instance, we have to be aware of how much energy there is in that fat so that we can have a realistic approach to it. Basically, in a biochemical sense, 1 gram of fat equals 9 grams of calories. 9 calories, sorry. So 1 gram fat, 9 calories. 1 kilogram of fat, that's 9,000 calories. Okay, and that will be the same whether you're male or female, small or tall, young or old. That's basic standards. Your body is able to mobilize a limited amount of calories in usual in a usual condition. So we should aim to reduce our calorie intake, or to have a negative balance of calories that ideally will not go over 500 calories a day. So if you do the math, if you're reducing 500 calories a day and a kilogram of fat is 9,000 calories, then you need a few days to burn a kilogram of fat. You need 10 days for 5,000, and you need an additional 8 days for 4,000. So we're talking about 18 days for a kilogram of fat. So let's say you start your diet and you lose 1 kilogram. The next kilogram, your body is going to burn less calories every day. First, because you're not carrying the weight of 1 kilogram on you. So it's like you took weights off and your exercise is less effective. But also because your body is not paying the upkeep for that fat. So basically, you're burning a bit less calories for the next kilogram. So if you're eating the same as you did for the first, you're going to take a few more days for the second, and then a few more days for the third, and a few more days for the fourth. So what happens to a lot of people is that you start losing weight, and as you progress, the weight loss starts getting slower and slower and slower. It is not that you're not doing what you should, it's just the way your body will normally behave. And it will keep working like that. anyone telling you there's a solution, that there's a workaround, they're trying to sell you something. That's not the way biology and physiology work. So you have to be aware that it's going to take some time, it's going to take some effort, and it's going to take, most of all, a lot of patience. At this point, you're probably thinking that whenever you try to lose weight at some point, you saw that you lost 2 or 3 kilograms in a week. So you said, how come? 1 kilogram of fat, 9,000 calories, 500 a day, why did I lose more? That's basically because whenever we have extra fat in our body, whenever we're sharing it, we're in a pro-inflammatory state. So your body starts building up water, and as you lose weight, your inflammation reduces, and then you start reducing water. So a lot of the weight you're seeing that you're losing for those first kilograms is just water, it's not fat. And no matter how well you do it, you're losing muscle, just a bit of it. So part of that weight loss is water, part of that weight loss sadly is muscle, and then part of that weight loss will be fat. So being strategic about it, we should try to reduce the amount of muscle we lose to the maximum, and that is not only because of aesthetic reasons that we like having muscle, but muscle is very functionally important for your body. Muscle will determine your base metabolism. Muscle will determine how well you age, how mobile you are as you get older, but it will also determine your insulin resistance, because it's very linked to a poor insulin resistance, the ratio of muscle to fat in your body. So you can be relatively thin but deprived of muscle mass, and you're at risk of developing insulin resistance. So it's very important for your overall health that you try to keep up your muscle. The thing is that your body evolved so that you can survive difficult conditions. It didn't evolve toward current day-to-day activities. So your body basically works on the premise that if you're not using it, you don't need it. So you have to convince it that you need your muscle, so it will keep it as you lose weight. And to convince it, basically you have to force your muscle to be necessary. You have to do resistance training, and you have to do it for all the muscles you want to keep. Or if you do resistance training just for a group of muscles, then you're going to lose the rest as you lose weight. So body recomposition is possible, but it requires a strategy. Going back to those 3 basic elements that we talked before, fat, carbohydrates, and protein, some of you, and I myself, we have tried at some point in our life a dissociative diet, where you stop taking one of the 3. I am very much against it. I know this is going to be controversial, but basically your weight is determined by the amount of calories you take, regardless of where those calories come from. You can have an unhealthy diet, and with a correct amount of calories, you're going to reach your weight goal. It's not advisable because your health will be impacted, but it can be done. So the fact is that your body does need fat, and there are better fats and worse fats, but your body does need them. And your endocrine health depends on you taking fat, because basically if you don't give fat to your body, it will interpret that you're in a precarious condition. So it will stop creating some hormones that are basic for your day-to-day functioning. One of those that will be very much impacted by it will be testosterone, which will be lower. And just so you know, testosterone is a hormone that we both men and women have, and it's important for both because it's a hormone that prevents depression, that increases the amount of muscle mass you have, that increases libido. So it's a hormone that we rather have than not. And if your body your body interprets that you're in a difficult condition because you're not taking any fats in, it will stop building it up. But it will also increase some other hormones that we want to keep to a lower level, such as cortisol. So cortisol will make you pack more visceral fat than subcutaneous fat. And visceral fat is the one that most severely impacts your health, where subcutaneous fat, other than the impact it can have the weight on your joints, has no negative effect on your health that we know of. So basically, the fat that you're building up the most of will be the ones that's worse to have. So that's why you have to take everything when you eat. And this is especially important if you're following any of the new medications that we have available now that will affect your appetite and will allow you to follow a more strict diet or change the way you eat normally. If you take those and you're not careful to have a proper amount of protein, you're going to lose muscle. If you're not careful to have a proper amount of fat, then your endocrine system will respond in a way that we don't want it to respond. So it's very, very important that whatever you do, you have support behind you, but you also do it in a way that you keep your health to the best level possible. So let's talk a bit about supplements. Basically, you can find an almost infinite amount of supplements in the market. And like many things that are very marketable, a lot of what you're going to find is just not necessary. But there's a lot of what you're going to find that can be very useful. So you have to be able to tell one apart from the other, since it can have a very significantly positive result on your health or a very significantly negative one. So going to the most basic things, if you have a good diet, if you have a very balanced diet with fresh fruits and vegetables with varied sources of proteins, you probably don't need to take any vitamins. But if your diet is not that good, or if you're not able to control that you're going to eat well through the day, it's not a bad idea to take a supplement of vitamins with some rest periods in between, but it's a good strategy for you to have. And there are a couple of things that have a good amount of scientific evidence, such as creatine. Creatine is useful for you to have a bit more energy when you exercise, to get one extra set every now and then, which will have an impact on the amount of muscle you're building up or keeping up. And it has been linked to better cognitive performance, and some studies even indicate that it might be good with prevention of dementia. But the thing with creatine is that if you take more than you should, then you're asking your kidneys to overwork, and it can result in you developing poor renal function, or if your renal function is affected before you take it, it can affect it further. So it's one of the things that you should consult your doctor very much before you take it. And if you have any condition that predisposes an increased risk, even have controls with your doctor after you're taking it. But other than that, it can be very useful for some people. There are a lot more supplements out there. What I basically recommend to all my patients is talk to a doctor before you take anything, so that they can advise something that is ideal for you. Because you might be taking something that is good, but you don't need, which is just a waste of time and money. Or you might take something that is straight up harmful for you, without that signifying that it's not good in general.